a very chaotic scene. A friend of mine was actually going on his honeymoon on Saturday and sent me images from the airport. They eventually got out on Sunday, but he was none the wiser at the time as to what was going on. All they were seeing was the Army Bomb Disposal Unit arriving. So what do we now know?
There's a honeymoon to remember. I hope he wasn't blaming any of his in-laws for planting.
It wasn't a good omen, was it? No.
No. Anyway, it's exactly a week later since all of this happened, and we've a lot of head scratching has gone on. Will what happened? What was the sequence of events? And I'll try and talk listeners through it, because there's a lot of bits of it that just don't add up. The clearance of Terminal 2 was related to the cyber attack, which has been well publicised in a roundabout way. But if you go back to this time last week, there was this first mysterious event where all the air traffic control in Dallas, Fort Worth, Love Field Airport, some listeners will be familiar with it, and they lost all their systems. Nothing could land, nothing could take off. A couple of very funny, frustrated air traffic control audio that you can pick up on the internet. Everybody said, okay, that's the sort of thing that happens. Late on Friday night, something else, unrelated, the other side of the world. It's like the plot of a Tom Cruise movie. Brussels comes down. Brussels cyber attack, quite clearly a cyber attack in this case. Systems that were used for checking in and for bag tagging all failed. So now we have two incidents in two completely unrelated parts of the world. Next up is Berlin. Berlin, a system failure. And Heathrow, smaller system failure, but it's the same thing. Collins Aerospace, big multinational company. They have a presence in Shannon, quite a few jobs in Shannon, but they have 80,000 employees worldwide. They're based out of North Carolina. They supply amazing technology to airports such as Dublin and Aer Lingus. The airline buys it, not the airport. And Aer Lingus had bought it. It's called the C-Muse system. That was what was targeted. Aer Lingus Saturday, the C-Muse system is not working. Long ago, there used to be loads of people behind check-in desks. There used to be baggage handlers. There used to be armies of people moving around the airport.
I remember those days.
Number of employees is way down now. So on a Saturday, if the digital isn't working, you don't have the bodies. Well, you don't have the personnel to take over manual checkout, handwritten tickets, all of that. So Aer Lingus stuff started backing up both in Heathrow and in Dublin. Now next, and we're in a Tom Cruise movie here, and you can you can hum the theme there, dum 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 dum, in the background if you like, Will. But there's a guy in Heathrow who gets on his flight to Dublin to go to New York. He's already flustered. I don't know this. I'm just assuming. He's been late checking in. Everything has to be handwritten. He goes through security in Dublin and he leaves his bag behind. He is running to the gate. He doesn't know whether he'll make his flight. The Gardaí come in, take a look at the bag and said, that looks suspicious. Everybody out. 12,000 people in Heathrow, in Terminal 2 in Dublin, evacuated onto the apron. Wonderful footage. Anybody who follows Twitter X, whatever they call it now, there's a wonderful guy. He's doing his leaving cert next year in North Dublin called Sean Dunn. Sean's Aviation. He had great pictures, great footage of it. Everybody is out for 90 minutes. The guards call the army in. The army look at it. They have a pre-test on it. They discover there's no explosives. Everybody back in again.
Well, we should point out, by the way, that during that time, that vacuum of information, X and various other social media were alive with theories. I had read how they had found detonators and so on. Not to be.
That's what it does. I mean, if there's a very simple solution, like there's a bag that somebody left behind, they're not going to say that straight away. They're going to go through 49 theories of malevolence and all these sorts of things, and then eventually it'll come back to the thing, some passenger left his bag behind, which is what actually happened. And there's no information. As your honeymooner knows, there was more important things to do than let the passengers know what's going on by the few airline staff that were there. It's Saturday. You can't get anyone. You can't actually call in. If it was a Monday, you can generally call in people who are in standby. But Saturday is much messier, short notice. And we had all of this drama in Dublin Airport playing out. Back in Brussels, they have cancelled over half the flights. They've cancelled nearly 200 flights. And people, it's absolute milling around desks there. A lot of people really, really angry at people that have missed events, all of that. And Dublin is getting back to more or less normal by about 4 o'clock. Very proud of themselves in Dublin, how easily they got things back. But we have now had cancelled flights. We've loads of delays, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. But we now have 9 outbound cancelled flights and 4 inbound cancelled flights and a diversion to Shannon. Now we have another problem. We have the aircraft that take off, the midday wave of transatlantic aircraft heading off from Dublin, off to America, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, one of the Chicago flights. Don't make it over. That means they're not coming back on Sunday. That means the first of the fans coming in for the big Vikings versus Steelers match next Sunday are already caught now. Luckily enough, it was later in the day cycle. That would have been a real drama. But the first gangs were coming in on that Minneapolis flight. So all of that is happening. We now have Sunday and it's rolling through. We've 9 inbound cancellations, 4 outbound, exact mirror of Saturday. By Monday, the cancellations are gone. Aer Lingus have now got their staff on laptops and mobile phones, can you believe, trying to generate boarding passes. And it is working. It's just holding together. And they've brought in staff from everywhere. Anybody who was, dealing with travel trade bookings, anybody who was in the PR department, they're all on the ground, running around, trying to help people. And this works. This is what happens for 5 days until, miraculously, the night before last, we're now Friday, it was late Wednesday night, the team of people that were sent over from Collins Aerospace in America, they discovered that the servers on which all of this depends have to be rebuilt from scratch. There's a lot of techies who listening to your program who knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's so corrupt that the whole thing has to be rebuilt and recoded. And they spend 3 days, 4 days doing that. They had 2 false alarms. They thought they had it solved. Brussels, where the firepower was concentrated, they said they're not happy, it's not working. But eventually, yesterday morning, Aer Lingus was back to digital check-in. And the big news and the big reminder for all of this is how much we depend.
Completely exposed.
Press conference yesterday, and he talked about November the 12th. It's a really important day in all our lives. After November the 12th, Ryanair will not take any more paper boarding passes. Everything has to be on your mobile phone. It has to be within the app, and that is setting us up for the next big failure. It's just we so depend on it. Will, that was the big learning over the last 7 days of that Tom Cruise movie.
I was going to ask, do we know who the arch villain in our Mission Impossible movie is?
Like Hollywood would come up with this straight away. We get a scene where he's plotting it, at the bottom of a volcano or whatever, in whatever room it is. It does look like, Collins Aerospace have been round the houses on this before, very strongly suggested that they were subject of the ransomware before. Whether they paid it or not, we don't know. How they solved it, we don't know. But it does appear there was a previous incident in April. Now, this time round, there's lots of speculation and theories. We've one arrest in England, which is very mysterious. Somebody arrested and released again. We don't know whether there's actual charges out of that or whether somebody just said something on social media, I did it, and the police had to call him in to know was he a head case or not. But we do know that the European Cybersecurity Agency has said it's definitely ransomware. Where you find the ransomware emanating from, there's a lot of research done on that. People blame North Korea. People blame the ungoverned parts of the world. Myanmar would be a very good example of it. I take a lot of that with a game of salt because I know the guys who are in the security industry, they love to disseminate all sorts of information to make it sound like they know more than they do, and also to keep their budgets high. I think that there's a lot of speculation and very few facts on this matter, Will.
Well, if you're planning to fly over the next few days, is everything back to normal? Yes.
Back to normal, absolutely back to normal. It's quite astonishing how quickly aviation copes with these things and gets things back to normal. A lot of the number of flights cancelled, it was very dramatic, but a strike can cause more cancellations. People crying off sick, which happens a lot in French air traffic space, can cause more cancellations. They can, and a weather event can cause cancellations. So in the scale of cancellations, it's not even in the Champions League. It's down there at the bottom of the Europa or somewhere. But it's a good test for Aer Lingus and Ryanair. Ryanair weren't affected at all, but I noticed something emerged. I didn't know this. Ryanair, for one flight every week, pretend that the system has fallen, and their staff have to deal with it like there was no digital. And this is
keeps them agile.
This is Michael O'Leary's way of making sure the systems work if there's a bigger failure. It's quite an interesting one that he's always the farmer from Mullingar, if the weather turns cold, what will we do? And he's he keeps them agile, keeps them nimble to respond to situations. I think there's been big learnings in Aer Lingus as well. They're very proud of how the Aer Lingus software people, their own tech people, got the laptops and the mobile phones up and running, so that the check-in desk had, instead of the big computer, they were using laptops. Big learning for passengers, really important learning for passengers. The one thing Aer Lingus staff, this isn't in any press releases or anything, but this is what Aer Lingus staff are telling me. The one thing that caused them the most problem was advanced passenger information. It sounds really technical, but what it is countries like America and Spain, they need to know what hotel you're in or what your address is, what your apartment is when you get there, for security reasons, for their own security people. If you fill that out online, everything worked. But the people who hadn't got that filled out online, it caused immense difficulties trying to do all the workarounds with it. Advanced passenger information. When you're check in online, that's always a must. Check in online. If you're checked in online, you've a seat. Well, a seat assigned. Sometimes not a seat assigned, but usually a seat assigned, and you're on that list of people getting on the aircraft. If you haven't checked online, you're trying to persuade someone to get you onto that list. It's a big problem. And that is the big learning for passengers, which, amidst all of this, how we behave will help if there's another big failure, cyber attack. And as sure as night follows day, there will be one.
Oh, there will be. There's always a sequel to the movie. Eoghan,